Hello, welcome to the Amity Kramer show talking about parenting and birth. Although we haven't talked about birth at all yet, and this is episode number 4, so next time it'll be much more about birth. So today we have a number of things for you, some safety tips, some inspiration for life and relationships, and then a personal story of something that I did that was a mistake that I learned from that I'm going to tell you about at the end. So we'll get right to it. Happy Juneteenth, everybody. This has been such an interesting week, news-wise, and, for living in the United States, just, wow, a lot of different things going on. And so earlier today, I was down at the waterfront watching the U.S. team win their game in the World Cup. That was cool. And yesterday, there was some cool things that happened. I want to highlight the grand opening of the Obama Presidential Library, or Presidential Center, I guess it's called. And did you listen to Michelle Obama's speech? If not, I want you to go and listen to it. There is going to be a link. It is, like always, so inspirational and motivating for human decency and love and goodness. And there was a particular part that kind of shown to me that I want to read to you. It's an excerpt from the end of Michelle Obama's speech. And I think it might be helpful for you in your households and your relationships. She says, "We want you to come here and put away your phones and talk, laugh, and cry and make new friends. Get your hands dirty in my garden. Push your baby on the swing in the playground. Have a romantic picnic in the great lawn. Because that's the work of democracy too. Being neighborly, taking care of each other, taking care of public spaces, having some fun, enjoying each other, shaking out of the isolation and division that has crept too deeply into our lives." Boom. Are you feeling like isolation and division has crept a little too deeply into your lives? Michelle Obama is giving you a recipe. And I have to say, the sun is out. We are in the longest days of the year. And my recommendation to all of you would just be to kind of consider, like, how much are you playing and how much are you talking? How much are you working? Sometimes less talk, more play. Less work, more play can be a good recipe to remembering and feeling into one another's goodness. With that, if you are, it's easy for me to say, like, work less, or, don't just play more, right? That's not always possible. And so I will remind everybody that if you are working hard and overstressed, maybe you haven't gotten a day off in a while. Maybe you are exhausted from parenting. At the very least, acknowledge that. Hey, I am not on my best game right now. I'm not having a fun time playing because I'm too exhausted. And maybe excuse yourself. Even taking 10 minutes alone can be a big boost. So think about that. How can you play? How can you enjoy each other's company? How can you simplify things so that you are not busy, rush? Okay. The next thing I have for you is some water safety tips. This is the time of year when kids are near the water, in the water, and it's always good to refresh those safety tips for little kids and being in the water. I was searching around the internet and I came across a really cool resource on the Red Cross website. There is a number of videos and trainings and even videos for kids to kind of teach them about safety in the water. I thought it was pretty cool. The links will be in the show notes. So a few things that I want to just remind you that came from the Red Cross website. One is, do not supervise kids in the water with cell phones. We all know it is way too easy to get distracted in whatever is beeping or scrolling. And so if you are by the water with children, put your phones away, maybe even power them off. Next, never ask an older kid to watch a younger kid in the water. I guess children can't be trusted. No, I mean, it makes sense. It's a lot of responsibility to put on a child, and so a grown-up needs to be in charge. In a group setting, always assign one person who is the watcher. And this is someone who is not looking at an adult, but is looking at the water, looking at the children. And the recommendation that I thought was really quite smart was just like, if you've got kids, have them wear life jackets. They can still swim, splash, do all sorts of things in the water, and even practice their swim moves with a life jacket on. And so I thought, yeah, why not? Why not just have your kid wear a full-on life jacket? And then as a reminder, if there is ideally if a pool or, there would be some sort of physical barrier to get into the water. But if not, it's important that everybody gets in the water and out of the water at the same time. So there was lots more tips on there, but those are the main ones. But remember, water safety is really key. And, every parent can work hard to set the stage. I thought about this a lot, like how when my kids were going over to play dates, I would just ask the awkward question, do you have any guns in the home? No one wants to ask this question. It's kind of like, it's a little bit odd and it can feel uncomfortable, but it's really important. It's important to know if there's guns in the home and then how those are stored or managed if that answer to that question is a yes. So talk about water safety. It's definitely an important thing. Date night. Okay, I went out to brunch the other day. It was delicious. I realized this is my new favorite restaurant. It is called Salt and Iron, and it's up in Edmonds. I'm a North End person. I'm sorry, folks from the South End that are listening to this. I do not have a lot of resources in the South End. So in Edmonds, Salt and Iron, I like this place because the food is so good and it's interesting, right? It's flavorful, it's interesting, and the vibe in there is also pretty cool. So I got my receipt and it says date night option if you have a ticket to the theater, the Edmonds Theater, which is like one block down the road. You can show your ticket stub and you will get a sweet deal, 2 drinks and a bunch of oysters for $38. And I thought, woo, that's a good deal. Now, the bummer news is I don't like oysters because I'm allergic to seafood. So I don't know if I'll be able to enjoy this deal. But if you're into seafood, I thought it was a great deal, 2 drinks and some oysters, and you can go see a movie and enjoy one of my favorite restaurants up in Edmonds. The last thing I want to tell you about today, folks, is this experience I had this week where I was reading this book, and it was a bunch of stories about someone who is a medical doctor, worked in the emergency room. And I was reading this book and I was like, oh my gosh, this guy's such a jerk. That was like my first impression. I read maybe a few of his stories. I listened to a few of his stories and I was like, this guy's a jerk. I'm going to turn it off. And I didn't turn it off. I continued to read, and it ended up that the things that I was concerned about, this person kept talked directly addressed in this book. And it was interesting, A, that the second time I've been offended by a book that I've been reading, and B, this idea came to my mind of like, your judgment does not equal understanding. And I had this experience, and that term came to me, or that phrase, judgment does not equal understanding. And here I was, once again, being Judgy McJudgerson, and it didn't My judgment did not paint the full picture. The next time I start feeling kind of grouchy, I'm going to ask myself, am I judging right now, or am I actually listening and understanding? Okay, that's all I have for you folks. Thank you so much for listening. Goodbye.